Hi, today I'm going to do a quick repair on my 2003 Dodge Dakota truck. Probably a few days ago at least, it started to make a noise under the hood that it shouldn't make. Um, as always, you should always investigate such things. I would also recommend, if you tend to drive with the stereo on all the time like I do, every once in a while you should take a drive with your radio off. You can just notice if you hear any noises you've never noticed before, because it started out with a noise that was low enough that with the stereo on, I didn't even notice it. And then I just happened by accident to notice it. And then it got progressively louder. The noise would change when it was cold. It was definitely sounded like a idler pulley or bearing noise. And then it got worse. And I literally was on my way to the auto parts store just now to get the parts to fix it when I heard a small bang noise, which was some pieces hitting the underside of the hood, and then it got real quiet. So I knew something was up. So I ended up getting to the auto parts store, and I kept an eye on all of my gauges the whole drive there. It was a short drive, and I got there, and this is what I found under the hood. So this is the 3.9 liter V6, which, I mean, all of them are going to have, all the motors that go in this truck are going to have this system. Basically, this is the serpentine belt. This runs around the alternator, the air conditioning, the water pump, the power steering, the fan clutch, all of that, and of course the crankshaft pulley. And this right here, what we're looking at, this is a special arm that's got a torsion spring. Okay, inside of that part right there, inside of that back section is a torsion spring, which a torsion spring, for those of you who don't know, is a spring that's coiled, and its job is to exert torque or rotational force. And in this case, it exerts a rotational force on that arm to push this, which what's left of that is a pulley, believe it or not, back out this way and keep this belt tense. Keeps tension on this belt. So it automatically keeps this belt at the proper tension. The pulley itself consists of a center metal part with a bearing. In fact, it pretty much is the bearing, surrounded by an outer plastic sheave. And in this case here, what happened was, while I was driving, the bearing was already making noise, screaming, letting me know that it was not in good shape. And eventually, what happened is the bearing seized. And when the bearing seized, that pulley stopped rotating. And the belt, wanting to do what belts want to do, being driven by the crankshaft and everything else, just kept on rotating and literally tore the plastic right off of the pulley. That probably is still pretty cooking hot. And it's cooling down now. But I can only hold my finger on that for about 3 seconds before it starts burning my finger. That's from the friction. So that helped me diagnose it, because when you first pop the hood, you got to figure out where that noise is coming from. And one of the tricks I can impart to you is, if you take a short piece of plastic tubing, and of course the fan is right here, so you got to be real careful. You don't want to get your fingers near the fan blade while it's spinning. But if you take a short piece of plastic tubing and hold one end up to your ear and take the other end and kind of put it in proximity to these pulleys, not your fingers, not your hand, but just the end of the tube. That way, if you do accidentally hit the fan hits it, it's just going to hit the plastic tubing and not do any damage. And you listen and you snoop around and you can localize, because when you listen to a bad bearing singing out of this thing, you kind of get an idea of roughly what side of the motor it might be coming from, but to localize it can be tough. Because you've also got an idler pulley right there. That's a freewheeling idler pulley that can also give you a problem. And then there's also the bearings in the alternator itself, and you've got the power steering pump over there. And so, long story short, quick way to find that. The other way to find it is, if you actually shut the motor off after it's been running a little bit, if you feel like the temperature of this bolt in reference to the temperature of, say, like this bolt on the alternator or any of these other bolts, this is much hotter because of the friction that's happening inside that bad bearing is basically overheating this bolt.
So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find a socket that fits on there really good. I'm going to put a breaker bar on there, and I'm going to rotate this whole arm back that way, which will allow me to get enough slack to take this belt off. Notice the only thing that kept this running is the belt literally slid off, and it's actually riding on what's left of that pulley. That piece of metal is riding in one of the grooves, because this is a grooved belt. You can actually see it over there. It's got grooves on the pulleys, and there are ribs on the belt that ride in those grooves. So that's how this was able to continue to run, but it wouldn't last very long before this belt would just get shredded. So let's get that off. So just a 15mm socket in this case on the breaker bar, and when I pull the breaker bar over, you'll see it takes all the tension right off of that belt. And I got to put the camera down and basically slip that belt off of there. So I popped the belt off of the alternator pulley also, and that gives me enough slack so that with the wrench still on there, I can pop this off, get this back to its fully all the way out position, and now, just for the heck of it, yeah, that doesn't want to rotate at all. Let's see. So now the trick is unbolting this bolt. But if you're lucky, it'll come out. The thing gets so hot from being heated up that usually they're not seized. All right, so now I got that broke free, so I'm gonna change to a ratchet. Now this can be the tricky part. Now I've got to slide that bearing off of that sleeve in there that it slides over. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get I've got a chisel with a wedge shape to it, and I'm gonna put it right behind there, and I'm gonna tap it. So just a wedge-shaped chisel like that, and a little bit of love tap right behind that bearing, right in this area here, and you can see I've already got that popped out. There's actually bits of melted plastic, I think, that are now keeping that from coming all the way off. There we go. And this part of it, got to get the rest off. A quick word about these pulleys. There are several different manufacturers of replacement pulleys for this. Of course, this is the OEM. I checked with, we have like 5 or 6 different major lines of stores, automotive parts stores around here, in close proximity to each other. That's the running gag, is that, you know, this town is made up of liquor stores and auto parts stores. But anyways, I checked all around what was in stock. If I wanted to drive only maybe a mile and a half more, I could get this pulley for 16 bucks at, I think, either AutoZone or Advance. But I regularly frequent the local Napa because I really like the counter people there. So I paid $24 something plus tax for this pulley. And this is it's a Gates, there it is. It's a Gates pulley. And it's no better than what was in there. It's just a cream puff of a, we got a cheap bearing in there. What do we got? We got an NTN. Yeah, we got an NTN bearing in there. Bearing's a common bearing. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell you what it is. It's a 6203 by the looks of it, sealed bearing. Nothing special about the bearing. Bearing is dirt cheap to buy, but it's injection molded. The pulley's injection molded plastic right around the bearing. There's no way to replace that bearing even if you wanted to. Sort of reminds me of my Toro lawnmower repair, although at least that was a metal sheave. All right, so we're gonna get this on. Oh, one last quick thing about the bearing in case you didn't notice it. Yeah, it's a Gates bearing, Gates pulley. Note, made in China. Quick note about that bolt. If you do end up trashing this bolt in this process, that bolt is available as a separate part at most auto parts stores. All right, so of course you want to torque this up to foot-pounds. Click. Hey, so that's interesting. That's not going to work. So this disc that was on there for the original pulley, I guess that's going to have to be omitted. All right, so this must be just for the type of pulley that was on there originally. This must have come with that pulley. Either that or maybe the OEM uses that. Not going to work on this. So now this is okay. Now I got to put the belt back on. Just a quick note about this belt. I'm actually going to save this belt It's actually in pretty good shape. It didn't get damaged from what I could see. And the way you can tell when these belts are past their life is, you can't really tell by looking at this side. If you look at the back side, the rib side, and you bend the belt back like this, and what you want to see is you want to see whether or not there are any little cracks or lines that form on those ridges. And this one's in good shape. And if you want to be able to tell that while you're looking at it, while it's still on the vehicle, all you have to do is take a look at the back side where it's running around, where the back is running around the circumference of one of the pulleys, so that it's like this. And then just check and see if you see those lines. Well, hold on, I may have spoke too soon. You can see there's a spot right there where it must have stopped and dug in. Well, I would say that this belt maybe, yeah. Maybe we don't want to bother with this belt. I'm putting a new belt on because that belt was already probably due, and it's probably been damaged from the bad pulley that was on there. Just for reference, in case you have your belt completely off and you get confused about which way it goes, there's on most trucks and vehicles somewhere there's a belt routing diagram like this, and you just have to know which one you got. I've got the 3.9 liter with AC, so it's this one here. All right, it can be tricky to get that on, but all right guys, start it. Another indication that you might have a problem with that getting ready to fail, in addition to the noise, now that I think of it, is that might be flipping back and forth really violently as the pulley is kind of like hanging up every once in a while in its rotation. That's a lot smoother than it was before it failed. And all those horrible noises are gone. All right, so that concludes this repair. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you like to see this kind of stuff, please subscribe. Take care. Bye.